Hi, City South Church. My name's Carolyn, and I have some announcements for this week. So, some good news to start off. We have been fundraising for a short-term project in Africa, in the DRC, specifically at the CarePoint Center in Kitabataba. And we needed to raise $3,000 in order for new toilets to be installed into the ground because the existing ones were no longer operative, they were no longer safe, and we exceeded our target of 3,000. I think we came in at 3,150, and so I want to thank you for your generosity. Another thing I want to share with you is we have been having these amazing prayer nights happening at the church on Monday nights at 7:30, and every week whoever's able to come, we gather in the sanctuary and we just use this time to really sit and be still, hear from God, and just pray into the future of where South is going and also what God has been sharing on our hearts. He has been speaking to us, giving us words of encouragement for each other and for where we are going. And so if you've never been out, I encourage you to come Monday night, 7:30, and if you can't come, have Monday night be a night of prayer where you are lifting up your church family, your community, your country, and just let that be a really good discipline every week. Thank you for your giving, your tithes and offerings you would like to give. Just head to our website, citysouthchurch.com, and click on the give button. If there's any way that we can help you through prayer or you have a need, please connect with us. Just look in the comments below on how to connect with us. Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Your love has ravished my heart and taken me over, taken me over, and all I want is to be with you forever, with you forever. Oh, your love has ravished my heart and taken me over. It's taken me over, and all I want is to be with you forever, with you forever. So pull me a little closer and take me a little deeper. I wanna know your heart, I wanna know your heart, 'cause your love is so much sweeter than anything I've tasted. I wanna know your heart, I wanna know your heart. Your love has ravished my heart and taken me over. It's taken me over, and all I want is to be with you forever, with you forever. So pull me a little closer and take me a little deeper. I wanna know your heart, I wanna know your heart, 'cause your love is so much sweeter than anything I've tasted. I wanna know your heart, I wanna know your heart. I wanna know your heart. Oh, I wanna know your So pull me a little closer, take me a little deeper. I wanna know your heart. 'Cause your love is so much stronger than anything I faced, and I wanna know your heart. I wanna know your heart. Yes, I wanna know your heart. Yes, Jesus. And Lord bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. And Lord bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. And Amen, Amen, Amen. And Amen, Amen, Amen. The Lord bless you and keep you, and make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. And Amen, Amen, Amen. Oh, Amen, Amen, May His favor shine upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and the children, and the children. May your favor shine upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and the children, and the children, and the children. May your favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and the children, and the children, and the children. May your presence go before you, and behind you, and beside you, all around you, and within you. He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is for you. Oh, gracious to you, and Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace.
I find there's such a big difference between my kids growing up and when I grew up. There's so many differences, but one of them is like TV consumption. Like for me, when I was a kid, Saturday mornings was prime time kid TV watching. You'd sit down, that's when all the cartoons started rolling out. It'd be a couple hours of cartoons to watch. And as you watch the cartoons, about every 10 minutes, they would pause because there'd be commercials. And you'd have to watch these commercials, and the companies knew that kids were watching, and so all the commercials would be directed at me as a kid. It'd be like, you remember these like G.I. Joe, toys and Transformer toys and stuff like that. My kids' TV consumption now, they barely ever see commercials. They'll watch something on Netflix or some other, Disney Plus or provider like that. But every once in a while, we'll be at a hotel and we'll turn on the TV and they get the commercials. And they're not attuned like I was to knowing that commercials they were pitching me something. They were trying to sell me something. They didn't give the full story. There was kind of the fine print. There's that catch. And they go, oh, Dad, look at this commercial. Like this thing could do this, 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 and this. And they just believe it all, hook, line, and sinker. And I'd always be like, there's a catch. They're not telling you the full story. We're in a series right now where we're asking the question, are you a fan or are you a follower? Are you a fan of Jesus? Just an admirer, an enthusiastic admirer. Are you a follower of Jesus? Are you all in? And the verse that we've been using in this series of kind of the looking at this question is Luke chapter 9, verse 23. And it says this. It's Jesus talking. He says, if anyone would come after me, they must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me. If anyone. So I want to look at that word, anyone. Jesus invites anyone to follow him. And in some ways, we can be like, okay, what's the catch, Jesus? What's the small print? What aren't you telling us? What's the full story here? And it becomes even more so when you understand the world that Jesus was walking in. You see, Jesus was what we'd call a rabbi, a teacher. And there's lots of different teachers, these rabbis walk around, and they'd all have these students following behind them. They would be called talmids, these students. We would call them a disciple or a student or an apprentice. They're learning from this rabbi. And these rabbis, they want the best students, because if the students were really good, it reflected on them as a teacher being really good, because these students want to learn from them. Well, we have the same thing today. Our schools, the prestigious schools, their qualifications to get in are near impossible. And so it's the best of the best students that go to those schools. I have a friend, and she is brilliant. And because of that, she got into Harvard for her master's degree. And she did so well at Harvard that she was able to get into Oxford for a PhD in England. What makes those schools so prestigious is it's so hard to get into them. Her marks are like near perfect. And that's the only reason she got in. So it's the same thing with these rabbis, is they would want the most amazing students. And so there'd be all these qualifications, like an application process. A student would come up and be like, teacher, I would like to follow you. And the teacher would be like, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions. And now these teachers, their specialty of study was the Old Testament, especially the first 5 books of the Bible, which we call the Torah, and then the prophets, books like Isaiah and Jeremiah. And so they'd start asking questions, and they'd say, okay, in Leviticus chapter 12, how many times is the word the Lord said? And you'd have to know right off the hop. You'd basically have to have all those books memorized. And they did this because they wanted the best. Look, and so if you were a kid, as a parent, you wanted your kids to follow a rabbi. That was like the most prestigious thing. And if they didn't make the cut, if they couldn't get and follow a rabbi, then they would follow the family trade. And that's what most did. They were fishermen or carpenters or whatever the family trade was. And so here you have Jesus coming, and he takes this, and he turns it all upside down, turns it on its head. And he starts to call people to follow him that don't fit that criteria. These aren't the Harvard, Oxford level of students. They might not even be like the community college level of students, some of them. He starts to call fishermen, political hotheads. And this is what really takes the cake. He calls Matthew. We'd be like, oh, Matthew, the guy who wrote the Gospel Matthew? Yeah, that Matthew. But when Jesus called him, he's a tax collector. In his community, in that town, Matthew is the most hated Jew amongst his people. And the reason he's the most hated is he has linked arms with the enemy, with the Romans. And he's collecting taxes for the Romans, and then he's lining his pockets with these taxes. And so every time he's seen, a Jewish person sees him and says, you're working with the enemy and you're getting rich off of us. So he might be the richest Jewish person in his community, but he's the most despised. And Jesus calls him to follow him. These are his students. These are his apprentices. Jesus is saying, anyone can follow me. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the most morally upstanding person. Anyone can follow me. See, I think Jesus knew how we would default. We would default to qualifications. Well, you gotta maybe clean up your life a little bit first, or you maybe have to change the way you dress a little bit, or your language, how you talk. We got to clean that up a little bit, and then you can follow Jesus. And Jesus does away with all that. He gets rid of all the qualifications, and he says, anyone. But Jesus just didn't get rid of qualifications when he said anyone. He also eliminated excuses. Because if the qualifications are eliminated, it's really hard to have excuses in following Jesus. Some of the excuses I hear often is about being busy. It's really hard to follow Jesus. It's much easier to be a fan of Jesus because I'm so busy. I got working long hours, or I'm doing school, my family, parenting, marriage. Like, I got a busy life. So being a fan of Jesus, that's manageable. Being a follower of Jesus, it's tough. Or another one I hear is you don't know my past. The past that I'm not proud of. I got baggage of addiction or divorce or bankruptcy. And we take these excuses and we allow them to hold us back from following Jesus. But Jesus says, anyone who comes after me can be my follower. Anyone can have a relationship with Jesus. Sexual past? Anyone. Recently divorced? Anyone. Being legalistic? Anyone. An alcoholic? Anyone. An addict? Anyone. Being a hypocrite? Anyone can follow Jesus and be an apprentice of Jesus. And let's be honest, if we grab a hold of this as a church, things are going to get a little messy. Because people are going to come that have maybe different musical preferences than us, dress in a way that confuses us, talks in a way that maybe even offends us. But I think Jesus would be so happy. He'd be clapping his hands and he'd be like, anyone, come on in. Come on in. Anyone is welcome to follow me. You see, followers are willing to welcome anyone into God's family, right alongside Jesus, even if it makes them uncomfortable. But fans prefer things to be comfortable. They don't want to know all the dirt and what's going on. Fans prefer things to be shallow and comfortable. But you got to understand, just because anyone is welcomed in, you don't allow people to stay there. We want anyone to follow Jesus so that they start to become transformed by Jesus and become more like him. Because when you follow Jesus, you are changed, you are transformed. It's only when you're a fan of Jesus that you'll just not change. Because you're just admiring from a distance as a fan. When you're a follower, you're right behind Jesus as an apprentice, learning, and things are rubbing off on you, and it's transforming you and changing you. And so we want anyone to follow Jesus so that they are transformed. So when Jesus makes his invitation of anyone to follow him, it's crystal clear that it's anyone, but it's everything. It requires all of you. To be a follower of Jesus, it is going to require everything of you. You see these students, these apprentices, these talmids, when they were following their rabbi, they would give up, leave family, leave job, leave whatever to follow the rabbi. And what they would say is people, there was kind of a saying supposedly that would go on and they would say, oh look, the dust of the rabbi are on these students. Got to remember, it's in a desert region, and so there's lots of dust. So sometimes you'll hear in scripture talking about washing feet. This is because it was so dusty, and so you'd have to wash your feet because it would stir up. They talk about the dust of the rabbi. And it's because these students are following the rabbi, so his dust would, get on them. But what it more meant is they're becoming to, what the rabbi taught, how the rabbi acted. It's starting to seep into them and change them. And they're starting to talk and act and think like the rabbi. And it's with Jesus. Anyone can follow him, but it will cost you everything. There's sacrifice involved. Following Jesus is more important than your family, your job, your career, your reputation. And you want that dust of Jesus to change you and transform you, that you begin to think and talk and act like Jesus, not like yourself. So even though anyone can come and follow Jesus, it is going to cost you everything. You will not be the same. I promise you, you will change. And everyone I've talked to that has decided to be a follower of Jesus, not a fan of Jesus, but everyone who's decided to be a follower of Jesus, they've all said it's been worth it. Not always easy, but worth it. So this is what Jesus offers. This greatest teacher who's ever lived. He offers all of us a chance to be his students. And he says anyone, he means it. There's no fine print. There's no, loopholes. There's no catch to it. There's no qualifications. You don't need to have any excuses. But what he does guarantee is it's going to cost you everything. Are you ready? Maybe you're, new to this whole Jesus thing. I would encourage you to just say right now, Jesus, I want to be a follower of you. I want to be an apprentice of you, Jesus. That my life begins to transform and I look more like you and less like me. Or maybe you've been doing this Jesus thing for a long time, but you're a fan. It doesn't cost you everything. You make excuses. You kind of keep this all at a distance. You want comfort. You want safety. You seriously just want things to be shallow. Maybe it's time to take that fan aspect and put it to the side and say, no, I want to follow you, Jesus. And I would say maybe it's a prayer of forgiveness and say, I am sorry, Jesus, for being a fan all these years. I truly want to follow you. Everything is yours. Maybe you'd be like, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm a little like Matthew or those other disciples. I'm far from perfect, but I am following Jesus. Then my simple question for you is, who are you inviting along to follow with you? It's for anyone and everyone. So don't just make it about you. Who else are you saying, hey, this is awesome. Come follow me. Come follow with me as I follow Jesus. So those 3 people, those that are new to this Jesus thing, maybe make a decision to follow Jesus. Those that when you truly say, you know what, I have been a fan, I'm not a follower, maybe say I'm sorry and become a follower. And those that are following Jesus, maybe it's time to invite someone else along to follow with you as you follow Jesus. So whoever you are, why don't you in the comments let us know, and maybe you have a question, or maybe you want to tell us what decision you've made today. But Jesus, we thank you that you invite anyone and everyone to follow you. This is not an exclusive club. This isn't like getting into Harvard or Oxford. This is for anyone and everyone. And I thank you that we can follow you. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make a comment. Let us know that you're here. And we'll see you again next week.